Hello, thanks for tuning in. I've got a rather amusing call here. Bach is calling in, and he specifically wants to speak to Derek. Now, tell me, when you go around in your everyday life, when you meet somebody new, do you check out what their epistemology is before you actually will consider anything that they've got to say? Do you actually make sure that they've got a sound epistemology before you start to listen to what they're saying? Well, it seems that Bach does, but anyway, let's go on and find out what happens in this call.
So, Bach, you're on with Derek.
So, Derek, would you say all material reduces to quantity?
Oh my gosh.
And then
Okay, so I mean, me answering that question, no, I wouldn't say that all material reduces to quantity, because obviously materials have got characteristics, features. Not all material is the same. Okay, let's keep going.
qualities are ultimately illusory.
This sounds like a
Okay, so yeah, so I've said that obviously the qualities of material, um, different materials have got different qualities, etc. So no, I wouldn't say that they're illusory. I would say that the different qualities that materials have got are real as I perceive them to be, and I've got confidence in that position.
a precept. This sounds like the
Asking you a question.
The
Listen,
script.
does all material reduce to quantity? And if that's the case,
Is this
qualities? Well, hang on, are qualities illusory?
who is this?
Bach.
This is Bach from Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I would just answer no. Not material doesn't just simply reduce to quantity. And then he would probably say to me, "Well, why do you say that? What is your reason for that?" You say, "Well, I perceive, and I've got evidence that that's not the case. That material is more than just quantity. That there are also qualities to different materials." Then he'll probably say, "Well, how do you know that? What's your reason for that?" "Well, because I perceive them to be. I've got evidence." "What's your grounding for that?" I can see where he's going, and I do believe that he is a pre-sup.
Yeah, I'm not interested in your script, to be honest with you. It sounds like a typical precept
Listen,
script.
no, it's not a script. Listen, if material reduces to quantity, then qualia is ultimately illusory. Do you agree?
Well, I think the answer to that question should just be that material just doesn't simply reduce to quantity. It also has qualities. So I wish you would say that so we could get to the next stage.
What you're talking about?
Yeah, I have a question real quick, Bach. Why did you call in to specifically ask Derek questions if this isn't an area that Derek has any particular expertise in?
How do I know what Derek knows?
Well, why didn't you?
You
Do you
asked
know
for
whether or
me.
not I know? Do you think I know?
I want to know if Derek has any epistemological understanding. Does he have any understanding of his epistemology?
Do I have any understanding of my epistemology?
Yeah, so I'm asking you the question in relation to your epistemology and your ontological beliefs. Does the material
Right.
world reduce merely to quantity? And if that's the case, are qualities illusory?
Okay, so what is the point? I'm just going to go.
Well, just say no. And qualities are not illusory. The qualities are actually real. And here is my epistemology. Here's my justification for accepting that qualities are real and that material just doesn't simply reduce to quantity.
Go with the flow and say, I don't know, help me out. What is the answer?
Because if all is quantity and removes qualia, then any concept of meaning in your atheistic worldview is done away with. Meaning is merely an illusory concept.
Yeah, but I mean, demonstrate that all material just simply reduces to quantity. If he's claiming that, then he's now taken on a burden of proof, and he doesn't really seem to be doing that.
Concept in your mind, and I have no reason to take anything you say seriously.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, but he's qualified it by saying if, and he hasn't demonstrated it yet. Just because Derek can't account for his epistemology doesn't mean that he doesn't have an epistemology.
Understand that?
That's fine. And you're saying I should take what you're saying seriously.
No, I'm saying you need to develop an epistemology where you can account for why I ought to take anything you say seriously.
And I'm asking you, what do you have to present that is something we should take serious?
Well, that's a fair question. If he's saying that because Derek can't articulate or account for his epistemology, so he's not going to take anything Derek says seriously, then by the same token, Bach should also account for his epistemology. So let's hear it.
Well, we'll have to talk about what can secure ultimate meaning in this world. Derek, what do you think can secure ultimate meaning in this world?
Ultimate.
Well, I mean, what is ultimate meaning, and how do you know it exists? And why does it matter? Why do we need ultimate meaning?
Yeah.
Ultimate meaning. Like people can't have subjective experiences that you would consider meaningful. But you don't count that as meaning.
Those would fundamentally be illusory. Am I right? In relation to the ultimate, they'd be fundamentally illusory?
In relation to the ultimate, again, what does that mean? Define that. What do you mean by in relation to the ultimate? Is he talking about the existence of a God and God as being an ultimate? Because he's obviously presupposing that this ultimate exists, and he's basing his argument around that. So that sounds like presuppositionalism to me.
I'll go with it and say, sure. Let's just suppose both of us. Let's just say that's the case with the worldview that I hold, and you and me both are dealing with illusory experiences we call meaningful.
Okay, why should I take you seriously then?
Why should I take you? You're the one who's saying that, I don't have to take it serious.
Derek, this is the problem with your epistemology and your ontology, is it reduces.
Well, if he's not taking Derek seriously, he must have a rationale for that. He must have an epistemological foundation for not taking Derek seriously, and he needs to demonstrate in great detail what that rationale is and what that epistemology is.
To meaninglessness. When your foundation is meaningless,
I'm gonna interrupt, Bach.
Is meaningless.
Bach, I'm gonna ask a question here. If Derek doesn't have a good understanding of epistemology, does that mean that atheism is without any sort of understanding of epistemology?
Listen, I'm interested in Derek's epistemology because Derek builds a worldview.
Bach,
listen, hang on.
Bach,
Listen, let me answer the question.
Bach, no, I'm gonna mute you because you're.
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, so Bach's, come on. Let's supposing that he has exposed Derek as having no basic understanding of what his epistemological foundation is, or what his epistemology is. He's got no reasons for having any confidence in any of his positions whatsoever, and therefore one can't take seriously anything that he says. Okay, let's supposing that he's won that victory over Derek. Of what value is that? Because he's then got to deal with another atheist who maybe can actually provide a good justification for his epistemology, as Matt no doubt can.
You're not answering the question, okay? You got to run your little script on Derek and show that you have a better understanding of qualia than he does, and that you might have a better understanding of epistemology. Now we're going to find out if you can stand up and be honest. And so the question is, and I'm going to ask it again, if Derek doesn't have a good understanding of epistemological foundations, does that say anything at all about an atheistic worldview?
Well, it depends on the atheist I'm talking to. So if I was
No, it doesn't depend on the atheist you're talking to. No, it doesn't, Bach. I'm going to.
Okay, yeah. So he's saying that some atheists have got a good epistemological foundation, and others haven't. How is that going to advance the inquiry into whether or not a God exists, which obviously is what these shows are all about? What you have to do is present an argument which is universal and which can defeat any atheist or any atheist position.
You again, I'm going to ask you the question. Does Derek's flawed epistemology, let's assume that Derek's epistemology is broken. Does Derek's broken epistemology in any way demonstrate that atheists are all without good epistemological foundations?
Okay, I got a beep and I couldn't hear the last thing you said.
Does Derek's broken epistemology in any way demonstrate that atheism, that other atheists don't have good epistemology?
Yeah.
Well, of course, now he's contradicting himself because he's previously said it depends on which atheist you're talking to, implying that for him, some atheists will have a secure epistemology and a good understanding of that, and one could take their word seriously. Now he's saying that no atheist has got a sound and secure epistemology. Obviously, if he's a theist, then he will believe that no atheist has got a secure foundation for their epistemology, which in his case, he would say is God.
No, you're wrong.
Yes, I'm right. So,
No,
Matt,
you're wrong, and I'm going to mute you, and then I'm going to give you a lecture because you're a smug little prick, and I'm going to have some fun today. The fact of the matter is, no individual's flawed epistemology says anything at all about the other members of a group. My epistemology may be different from Derek's. Mine could, in fact, be sound if his is broken. His could, in fact, be sound if mine were broken. That's why I asked the question, because you came in as a smug little prick to try to dog stomp my friend by exposing that he doesn't dig in on philosophy and doesn't care that much about the foundations of epistemology, probably doesn't even know what qualia is. I do, and qualia is bullshit. If you would have asked...
To be honest with you, I don't think that you should probably be sitting in the chair on shows like this unless you've got some understanding of the philosophical arguments for epistemologies. I think that one has to have some sort of basic knowledge and be able to articulate one's epistemology. Otherwise, you'll be floundering in situations like this.
Me those questions, you already know, Bach, which is why you said you wanted to talk to Derek. You act like I'm an idiot. I absolutely 100% know exactly why you called in trying to dog stomp Derek and not actually engaging with me. It's because you're a dishonest fuck, which is why when I asked you if Derek's failure said anything at all about whether or not other atheists or atheists in general had a flawed epistemology, and you lied and said it did. You presented a fallacious claim at the end of it. I will move on to somebody else. Bye, bitch.
Real quick, I'd like to ask you.
Okay, yeah, so if he's going to invoke God as a secure foundation for his epistemology, which I suspect that he was going to get there eventually by the way he was talking about ultimate meaning, ultimate foundation, etc., then it didn't really matter whether he spoke to Derek or Matt. I suspect he wanted to speak to Derek because he wanted to make him look foolish by bandying around terms like qualia and asking him questions like, does all matter reduce to quantity? Actually, which is easily answered. And he didn't speak to Matt because Matt would have dealt with those, and but he wouldn't have been able to make Matt look foolish in the same way that maybe he made Derek look foolish. Which in a way he kind of did a little, because I still think that Derek maybe needs to go and read up on epistemology a little, at least a little, so that if somebody says to him, what is your epistemology, you could actually lay out what it is. And it doesn't really take much to it. I did it earlier. I'm not saying that I did a fantastic, brilliant philosophical job on laying out my own epistemology, but I probably know enough just to convince anybody that I'm speaking to that I've got some understanding of what epistemology actually is. So yeah, he just came on to make Derek look foolish, and as he said that all atheists have got the same flawed position because there's no God in their worldview. And if he'd spoken to Matt, he would have ended up there, but he would have ended up there faster. And I always say, first, you have to prove that your God exists before you can invoke that God as a secure foundation for your worldview. You can't argue in a circular way. And you're in the same position as me. You're making a presupposition about the grounding for your own epistemology. And your presupposition is a God with lots of baggage with it, and mine isn't. So mine are just a set of principles developed and refined purely by human beings, and I presuppose that they're fit for the purpose, and that's all there is. Thanks a lot for watching. Goodbye.